The Mandalorian Season 2 definitely made a lot of people cry, including myself. In this video, I'm gonna explain how a story can get its audience to cry. But before I begin, only about 29.5% of my viewers are subscribed to this channel. If you do end up enjoying this video, consider hitting the subscribe button. And if you don't enjoy the video, obviously you do not need to subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys so much, and let's continue on with the video. Now, I am well aware that a significant portion of the people who watched the Mandalorian finale cried only because Luke Skywalker showed up. This isn't the aspect of the episode that I'm going to focus on because you can't really create this kind of emotion with any story. The reason people cried seeing Luke is because of the now 43-year attachment some people have with this character, and this is the first time we saw a younger live-action Luke since 1983. And as much as I loved seeing Luke in this episode, he wasn't the reason that I cried. The emotional climax of this series so far is easily when Mando had to say goodbye to Grogu. This scene, I genuinely believe, is not only one of the best scenes in The Mandalorian, but also one of the best scenes in all of Star Wars. So why was this scene so successful? How did it make so many people cry and even more people just so emotional? Well, when I was researching this video, I came across a lot of aspects of scenes that make people cry. But when I was watching a video by The Closer Look, I think he made a great point about scenes that make people cry, and it has to do with the word injustice. Injustice basically means unfair. But I also think there is another aspect to scenes that make people cry, and it has to do with build-ups and payoffs. I'm gonna analyze two scenes that I think were very successful in making its audience cry, and then we're gonna look at The Mandalorian and see how it was successful in making its audience cry. The two scenes I'm gonna look at are one from Star Wars Rebels, and the other is from Avengers Endgame. So if you haven't seen either story and you don't want to be spoiled, then you can jump to this timestamp right now. Let's begin by looking at Star Wars Rebels. The scene that I had in mind was when Ezra Bridger told its audience to destroy the like button. I'm kidding. The actual scene that I had in mind is the death of Kanan Jarrus. Let's analyze this scene and how the death of Kanan Jarrus successfully implemented injustice and also had build-ups and successfully paid off those build-ups. Just to provide some context for this scene, this was after Kanan rescued Hera from the Imperials and they were about to escape. This episode takes place about halfway through the 4th season and also the last season. Throughout the entire series, there was definitely a lot of romantic tension between Kanan and Hera, and I mean a lot. It was clear that they loved each other, but they never really did anything about it. A few episodes before, they had their first on-screen kiss, but it was at this moment where Hera confessed that she loved Kanan. So again, after 4 seasons of tension between Kanan and Hera, they finally confess their feelings and they get to be together. They share a romantic kiss, and right as they are about to escape, the fuel depot that they are on currently gets shot and starts to explode. Kanan stalls the explosion long enough so Hera can escape, sacrificing his life in the process. So what was the build-up and the payoff? The build-up was 4 seasons of romantic tension, and the payoff was them finally confessing their love for each other. Remember, the stronger the build-up, the stronger the payoff, and then the stronger sense of injustice. This moment feels so unjust because they spent so much time wanting to be together, and right when they confess their love for each other, Kanan is taken away from Hera. Even though this is enough to create a really emotional scene that should make someone cry, this scene has another layer to it, and it has to do with Kanan being blind. At the end of the 2nd season, Kanan went blind. However, right before he died, he was able to gain his eyesight back for one last moment. This is another great example of build-up and payoff. Kanan has been blind for 2 whole seasons, and a few episodes before Kanan's death, Kanan tells Hera he wishes he could see her. The reason this works so well is because when he does get his eyesight back, he gets to see the love of his life one last time. Another aspect of the scene that I wanted to point out that makes it work so well has to do with another line by The Closer Look. It's not the action of the scene that makes someone cry, it's the reaction of the scene that makes someone cry. If Kanan was casually walking down the street alone and then out of the blue he got headshotted, this wouldn't work because we are not seeing anyone react to his death. All the best death scenes in almost anything have other people reacting to said death. In this scene, we get to see the reactions of Ezra, Sabine, and most importantly, Hera. It's their reactions that truly sell the injustice of Kanan's death. And this doesn't just apply to death scenes. When something is happening that is really unjust, You want to see the people around reacting to what is unjust. That is what gets the audience to cry. And those are all the reasons why Kanan's death scene works so well. Let's transition into Avengers Endgame and look at the death of Tony Stark. Tony Stark was in 9 MCU movies, and if there's one thing you can learn about this character is that he was most concerned with protecting the world, and more importantly, protecting his friends and family. In Avengers Infinity War, half of humanity was killed, which clearly took a toll on Tony. In Endgame, the injustice of Tony's death is paid off in one amazing line. When Tony is seconds away from dying, his wife Pepper goes up to him and says, "We will be okay," we as in his wife and daughter, "you can rest now." Those 4 words, "you can rest now," successfully pay off 9 movies worth of buildup. What this line tells us is that Tony has been haunted by the potential death of his friends and family and the rest of the world throughout all 9 movies. This is also confirmed earlier on in the movie where Tony is asking Pepper if he should try and save everyone, and she asks him in response, "If you don't, will you be able to rest?" The reason this line works so well is because it pays off for that strong sense of injustice. Tony has wanted to save everyone for 9 movies now, and once he finally accomplished that goal, he had to lose his life in the process. He was able to bring back family members to millions of people, but he will never be able to see his family again. This is injustice done perfectly, and all around him we see his wife and friends react to his sacrifice. This is why the death of Tony Stark works so well and why it was so successful in making the audience cry. Now that we know how a scene can make its audience cry, let's look at The Mandalorian and see how it was successful in making its audience cry. When we meet Mando in the first episode of the entire series, he is a loner. He doesn't seem to have any friends or anyone he cares about. He's a bounty hunter that just goes about his job without a care in the world. Once he meets Grogu, everything changes. He starts to love this kid, and it is evident throughout the first season. However, I think the bulk of this buildup came from the last 2 episodes. In Chapter 15, we see Mando take off his helmet just so he can have a chance at saving Grogu. Throughout the whole series up until this point, we know how important keeping his helmet on is for him. At the end of the first season, he would almost rather die than show his face to a droid. However, it is nothing compared to this scene. Luke shows up and he is ready to take Grogu away. Mando has gone through 2 seasons of so much. He has sacrificed so much. He has risked his life so many times just to keep this kid safe. As Ahsoka said it, Grogu sees Mando like a father. And after all that, he finally gets Grogu back, but he needs to give him away. This is the buildup. The 2 seasons of Mando doing anything to protect the kid. We even saw him jump in front of bullets just a few minutes ago. The payoff and the strong sense of injustice comes from him having to give Grogu away. Grogu is the first person in his life since he became a Mandalorian that he genuinely loved. When he took off his helmet, this is his way of saying he cares about Grogu more than anyone in the galaxy. And after all this, he now has to say goodbye. This is injustice done at its finest, but it's also bittersweet. Grogu or Mando didn't die, they are just going to be separated, and Grogu is going to a better and safer place. So keeping that in mind, it makes the scene a little happier, but also still really unjust. One aspect of this scene I really think works is the directing. During their goodbye, it is almost all close-ups. What close-ups accomplish is making the scene feel really intimate, and if you look at the scenes from Rebels and Avengers Endgame, those scenes also implement close-ups very well. Nothing else matters in the world besides Grogu and Mando. If you look at a lot of emotional scenes, there are usually close-ups like this one. I think what really sells this scene the most is the removal of the helmet. Again, Mando keeping his helmet on has been essential for him. However, just once, he wanted to look upon Grogu with his own eyes. When Grogu touched his face, you understand why Mando is so emotional. If you think about it, this is probably the first time someone has touched his face since he became a Mandalorian, and that person now has to leave him. I also think it's neat that Mando probably understands what his parents went through. They had to say goodbye to him to protect him, and now Mando is doing the same thing for Grogu. This is truly one of the best scenes in all of Star Wars, and I am so grateful to people like Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, Kathleen Kennedy, and Peyton Reed for making this beautiful scene. Thank you everyone so much for watching this video. By the way, I forgot last time to announce the winner of my shoutout from my earlier video, so congratulations to Crystal Customs for finding the little Claude. And in this video, I also implemented a little Claude somewhere in the video, and the first person to comment the exact timestamp of the little Claude gets a shoutout in my next video. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, don't forget to unite the Claude Squad, and I'll see you guys next time.